There's a crappy Catholic out there, his words, not mine, that while speaking in double negatives, ain't gonna be no atheist, which by my reckoning suggests he is going to be an atheist, though I don't think that's exactly what he means. Perchance he may mean that he has 10 reasons for why he won't be an atheist and why he thinks atheism is kinda, sorta stupid. Hello, I'm TheSkepTick, the British floating circle that watches people make extraordinary claims, and then I explain why I don't accept what they're saying. He's a crappy Catholic, and he makes videos about being a Catholic, and from what I understand, they're the most easygoing of religious folks who don't really care if you do or don't believe yourself, as long as they can eat the flesh and drink the wine blood of their zombie master. But he did care enough to make a video about why he ain't never not gonna be no stinking atheist. I kinda lost count of the negatives there. So before we discover exactly why some dude can't ever bring himself to not believe in sky fairies, if this isn't your first Skeptic video, hit the like, the subscribe and the bell, and perhaps the algorithm can give you a reason to watch more videos like this. And a super thanks to those that hit super thanks in some recent videos: Megatron Jenkins, Condor Boss and Tiago Martins. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe bestows leaves upon you all. More hen. 10 reasons why atheism is daft, then.
My name is Mark Kwasny, and I'm feeling a little mischievous today. And I had thought about a bunch of different topics I could talk about, and goodness knows there's millions upon kabillions of them to talk about. But something that kept coming up while I was doing this, and maybe it was an inspiration, it probably was an inspiration, was this whole topic, the idea of atheism. Now, so far I've been discussing ways to be a better Catholic, what being a Catholic is, and we're going to explore all that stuff. But at the end of the day, it's about God, an ever-present, omnipresent, incredible, amazing God who is love itself.
Ever-present, omnipresent, but is terrible at showing up when you ask for demonstrable proof of its existence. Not a great start.
That is the beauty of our faith, is that you believe that God is watching over you. He's there every second of the day for you. You are immersed in God. He's everywhere.
Watching you shower, watching you poop, watching you touch yourself when the mood takes you, watching you do things with other people. The God you believe in sounds like a right perv.
That's where we're coming from. So I thought about the atheist for a minute. I thought, first of all, I got to say, I'm kind of sad in my heart that if you're an atheist, you don't believe in God.
Which one? There are thousands to choose from.
Because what a void that must be. But like I said, I'm feeling a little mischievous. And this is from me. This is not anything official. This isn't anything that, I got from a book, I don't think. But it's 10 Reasons Why Atheism is Stupid by Mark Kwasny. Okay, so here we go. Number one. My first thought is that if there is no God, then you don't have to act like there is a God. Now think about that for a second. For Christians in general, we live as though there is a God. We have to pay, make an account for all the stuff we've done and not done and said and not said during our lifetimes, and all the terrible things we may have done or not, that we've done, right? And as I said, I've said in earlier recordings, is that, we use the 10 Commandments as kind of a baseline guideline for that, to say, okay, how am I living? And God says, well, do this, don't do that. Okay, so we have guidelines to go by.
You need a God to tell you what to do and what not to do. Can't you figure it out on your own? Let's have a proper look. No gods before, no graven images. So the top 2 important things to a floaty sky wizard that needed mentioning first are not to worship anyone else. Love me the mostest, but don't make any statues of me. Don't say goddamn, and keep the day you worship the needy being the holiest. And then honour your parents, then don't kill people. Adultery, steal, lies, want what others have. Seems like a random thrown together list with some that are pointless.
Because we know at the end of our lives we're going to be judged, right? But atheists don't even have that.
No, you think and believe you're going to be judged. You don't know. If you did know, you could demonstrate it, Marky.
And as I've also mentioned earlier, it's like, how many people say something like, well, I'm basically a good person. I'm like, based on what? So if you don't have God to account to, if you don't believe that there's a God, then you can do anything you want, right? You can do anything you want, which means good, bad, or indifferent.
I do anything I want. I just don't do certain things because I'm not a cunt. And I don't need a God to tell me not to do those things. I figured it all out on my own, skid.
So, all right, point number 2. Like it or not, when you die, and if you believe in God or you don't believe in God, you're going to meet God.
Prove it. You just asserting it's going to happen doesn't mean it's going to happen. You do realise that when you die, you're going to meet Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe, leaf be upon her. And if you don't accept Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe, leaf be upon her, then Well, nothing, because if she didn't give you a valid reason to accept her existence, that's on her, not you.
Now, that seems a very scary proposition. Now, I don't know about you, but I would not want to base my whole life or make the bet that there's no God, only to discover that there is.
Isn't Commandment 1 and 2 about false idols and loving only that God? Well, what if you picked the wrong God? Mate, you'd be more than someone who just didn't believe in a God. If you live your life the best way you can, even without a God, is the only reason it would ever be mad at you because you just didn't believe in it. Seems a little needy to me.
Right? Have you ever made a bet and lost? Have you ever been so confident about something only to find out you weren't right? So here's my advice, for whatever it's worth, is that live your life like there is a God, and then at the end of your life, if you meet God, well, not if, when you meet God, you can say, hey, I lived the best I could based on your moral code or based on this code that you have given. Because what could be worse than to live your life like there's no God, and then when you die, it's like, uh-oh, guess what? You were wrong. There is a God. And he's going to be like, yeah, well, you get the 0, dude. So, if you're going to hedge your bets that there is a God and live that way.
Sorry, I just can't accept things that aren't demonstrated to be real.
Because what's the worst that could happen? You live a moral code. You live like there is a God. You're good and kind and nice to other people. You live morally, right?
But you don't have to believe in gods to not be an Oh, I thought it was atheism that was dumb.
So that's all I'm saying. Give it a shot. But why not hedge your bets and go for the winning bet? Just saying. Number 3, if there is no ultimate divine being, then I think we'd have to believe that humans are God, right? So who is the ultimate intelligence on this earth if it's not God?
Dolphins. Why does anything have to be a god?
Please don't tell me it's some movie star or some music star or some political candidate, right? Because I think we all fall into that trap every once in a while. We're looking for a savior on earth. We're looking for some fallen human to, fill the gap and be our leader and rule the world, right? You've got the World Economic Forum. You've got a guy named Klaus Schwab, although I think he stepped down. But those people are like, we're going to tell you how to live. We're going to tell you what to do. We're going to make your lives miserable.
And if you accept that, then that's your problem. Instead, when you don't agree with something, no matter what position people are in, speak up. You elect leaders to be your voice. Though, unfortunately, there are people who also get to vote that may not align with what you agree with.
Do they believe in God? I don't think so. So something has to fill the void, right? And they fill the void. And they're a bunch of morons anyway. So that's a good point. Thanks, Mark. Number 4. Okay, atheistic communism. It's not called atheistic communism for no reason. It's because communists don't believe in God, because they believe they are God, because they believe that they have, again, nothing higher to hold allegiance to. Right? We're back to they can do anything they want. And in all their writings, everything's so fluffy and wonderful. And look at us, we're going to give you paradise on earth. When was the last time that human beings could give you paradise on earth? Look at anywhere in the country and in the world and show me a human paradise on earth where everybody's treated equally and wonderfully and people have no wants and everything.
I went to the Maldives in 2017, pretty much paradise.
If you look back at communism, anywhere it's been tried, it's like so many people live in misery, so much death, so much murder, and it's all from the government, right? They're the ones who are telling you what to do, how to live, and go talk to anybody who lives in a communist country and tell me that they're super happy.
There are plenty of countries that are predominantly atheist that aren't communist. You only have to look at mainland Europe to get an idea of what works well.
Right? And the biggest lie with communism is how they think, everyone's going to be equal. And I think everyone secretly thinks that they're going to be on top. They're somehow going to have the nice house and all this other wonderful stuff. Yet we already know the people who rise to the top in an atheistic communist system, they're the ones who make the rules. They're the ones who send the guys with the guns after you. They're the ones who put you in prison, right?
Yeah, you're sounding dumb by putting atheistic in front of it now. I'm British. I'm from a roughly 50% atheist country. That doesn't happen there, so you're just wrong.
Yeah, we're all equal. Some of us are just more equal than others. So, in terms of being a Catholic, though, we were told by Our Lady of Fatima in 1917 that Russia would spread its errors. And Russia, the errors were atheistic communism. And if you look around today, you see how much atheism has penetrated like governments and leaders and everything.
Hold on, isn't baldy Russian bloke religious?
And it's so outrageous when you think about it. It's like, well, we don't believe in God, but you have to listen to us. It's like, dude, who died and made you God? I mean, for goodness sakes, really? It just doesn't make any sense. So if you think logically through it, if there's no God, something has to fill the void. And so far, what has filled the void has been just horrific. So
I have no God. I've not filled the void with anything.
Number 5. Oh, this is kind of cool. So I wrote down that the Catholic Church is the largest non-governmental healthcare provider in the world. So because of that morality, perhaps, because of that, living as though there is a God, which there is, but in the teaching of Jesus Christ, it's about love, loving your brother, loving each other, helping each other, getting us through this life and everything.
Again, you don't need gods or religion to do that. Atheists can't help people.
So because of that, the church establishes all these hospital systems around the world. And I guess my quick question for all the atheists out there is, where is the atheist healthcare system or hospitals or atheists, like name an organization like, Atheists Without Borders or something. You go all over the world and you're helping people.
The NHS is not affiliated with religion, and it also doesn't bankrupt its patients. And the Satanic Temple, who are pretty much atheists.
Right? So again, we're back to, if you don't have a moral code, then what are you fighting for? What are you living for? Are you helping other people?
I donate blood 4 times a year. Does that count?
I know. We're all basically good people. I get it. You kind of laugh about this one. There's these arguments from as far back as I can tell. It goes back to evolution and everything, but there's the Big Bang Theory, which is that one day something in the dark universe blew up, and then the universe was formed perfectly and in great order, and just this incredible idea. And then you tell me you're a thinking person, or I like to think I'm a thinking person a little bit, but you think about it for a second and say, okay, so you don't believe in God, so God didn't create the universe, but the Big Bang did, which means something exploded.
Or did something pop under its own density and rapidly expand? It's not perfect order when 99.9999999% recurring of the universe can kill you, is it? And you're adding created, I accept, explanation for its existence.
And we get back to first cause. Like, well, what was this? Where did this something come from? It's infuriating because at some point you're forced to believe that there's just nothing, absolutely nothing, and then something comes out of nothing.
And the only people that believe that everything came from nothing are the godly folks. So quit pushing that onto me.
It's like, how does that make any sense? You can ask a 5-year-old, like, where did this come from? Oh, it came from nowhere. It just came out of thin air, right?
Doesn't the God story go that it magicked it all out of thin air? How is that believable?
Doesn't make any sense at all. So it's pretty funny. The whole idea of, again, an evolution, that's a whole other topic in itself. But stuff boom, comes out of nowhere. And, okay, so even the Earth is formed, right? Perfectly.
You've never looked more like a puddle than right now, Mark.
Human beings can breathe. There's water. Everything's perfect. And it just came out of nowhere. And then all of a sudden, something in the water, which again came from nothing, somehow hops up on a dry land and becomes, over time, human beings, with brains and minds and thoughts and conscience and everything like that.
You make it sound like humans are the only creatures that have brains. Ironically, not using yours to get that conclusion if that's the case.
So even to just think about it for a second, even on a very juvenile level, you scratch your head and you're like, okay, so stuff comes out of nothing and then it's really smart and everything. It's like, yeah, I'm not buying it. It's pretty stupid.
What's stupid is your explanation of it. When you're missing out a ton of time and process, your lack of understanding of abiogenesis and evolution doesn't make it silly. It's actually had the opposite effect of making you look rather daft.
Okay, number 7. I've noticed that atheists don't believe in miracles. Okay, there are skeptics, and maybe they're not always atheists, but for atheists as a rule, you can't believe in miracles, because if you believe in miracles, you believe in God, or you believe in a superior force, you believe in something that has just gone outside the rules of nature and said, okay, this is like out of nowhere. There's nothing to explain this, right?
So instead of just going, it must have been a god, atheists go, I don't know. Some may go further and try to discover why.
And I use for an example the Shroud of Turin, if you've ever heard of it, and hopefully you have. I'm absolutely fed up with this. When you see articles about the Shroud of Turin, could this really be the burial cloth of Jesus? Oh my goodness, this thing's been around. How many more times do scientists have to use all their super equipment to look at it and look all the fibers and everything and say, oh my gosh, they've already said there's no natural explanation for it. There's no way this could have happened by humans. And they said, well, somebody painted this. It goes beyond, look, it's a miracle. End of story, all right?
No, it isn't. Look at the face. The face wouldn't have printed like that if draped over a human. Science says there's no reason to accept it because there's nothing to demonstrate that it is in fact what it says it is. You can deny science all you want, but that doesn't make you right.
You either believe it or you don't. I mean, like, how much evidence do you need? And you look at some point you just got to stop and say, look, it's a miracle. We can't explain it. We know there's a God. We know God does amazing things for us. End of story.
Gaps filled with an undemonstrated God.
But I've noticed that atheists, for the most part, well, I'd say for all part, if they can't explain a miracle, after a while they're quiet. They walk away, right? I mean, what else are you going to say? Well, it's a miracle. There's no doubt about it. It's like the atheist doctors, like when there are miraculous cures in hospitals, they're treating a patient. Well, we don't know how to explain it. It's just unexplainable. Well, no, for those of us who believe it is explainable. God intervened, by a special grace. He cured someone, helped someone, whatever. But it just being so stubborn, it just drives me nuts. You're so stubborn.
And literally anyone from any faith can say that it was their God that did it. I can say it was Lisa the rainbow giraffe, leaf be upon her, that used that gigantic giraffe tongue to lick away the problem. And that's the only explanation because I believe in the cosmic rainbow deity.
It's like, well, we can't explain it. It can't be a miracle. It can't be God. We just, it's just beyond our human comprehension. We just can't explain it. I mean, come on, get over yourselves and just like admit it that there is something bigger than you in the universe that formed everything, creates everything, that there's an intelligence, a genius that is so far beyond you. And maybe that's what irritates a lot of people. They just can't stand the fact that there's something smarter than them out there, That's now your argument. It's not that I just haven't been convinced, it's that you believe, so I should too. Sorry, Tyre. I would love to believe in something if there was a good reason to, but there isn't. Maybe just in pride, these people are like, well, I can, science will fix everything. Yeah, no, not really. It's a humility. It's like there's just a lack of humility that there could actually be a super intelligent being that made everything, directs everything, and is still in the lives of every single person, keeping things going like a well-tuned clock.
Lisa the rainbow giraffe, leaf be upon her.
Number 8. They say, the atheists say, there's no evidence for God. It's got to be scientific, got to put it in a test tube. You could walk outside. How much more proof do you need? And that's another thing that kind of irks me, right? It's really stupid that you would walk outside and say, well, there's no proof of God. I heard a guy say years ago, it's like, look, science can't produce a blade of grass. And you get down, with all our microscopes and everything, you see, atoms and all these cool things at the microscopic level. It's like, well, who can create that? Can man go to a lab and say, we're going to make an atom today? And again, they talk about, it's always having something to create something.
Guess what? Take a proton, a neutron, and an electron, and guess what you've made?
If that makes any sense, right? Humans can't do anything. They have to start with something, okay? Let's say you want to make a chair, right? You have to get the wood to make the chair. So you finish this chair, you roll it out, and like, ta-da, look what I made. Like, where'd you get everything? It just came out of nowhere. It was nothing. It's like, wood had to be created. Wood is there. Wood was created by something greater than you. I think that's the bottom line. Maybe we shouldn't even have 10 of these. I would just say, what? I think it's the bottom line is that people just in their pride don't want to believe there's something greater than them. Oh boy.
BS. I don't care if there's something greater than me, but if there's something that created everything, then there has to be something that created that something. But then we get down the boring path of, but nothing created a God. Well, why do you get to change the rules for the thing that you believe in? That is dumb.
Anyway, okay, so number 9. If you don't believe in God, then you have no purpose. And if you have no purpose, what's the point? Did you get all that? Yeah, it twisted my mind too.
Nah, pretty easy really. You get 2 lives and the second one starts when you realise you only have one. Simples.
But for us as, again, specifically Catholics, right? What is our purpose? To know, love, and serve the Lord in this life so that we're happy with him forever in the next. That's our purpose. We get up every morning to follow God's will, to love him the best we can with all of our being, to learn about him, to know him, and that's our purpose. What's the purpose for an atheist? If you don't live for that purpose of God, I mean, seriously, what? To do well in your job, to get a raise? I don't know. What's your purpose? That's got to be tough. And I'm not trying to be mean on that one. I would sincerely like to know how do you find purpose in life if you don't believe in God? If you have nothing really to shoot for or aim for, everything's temporary. So, and there's a lot of people out there. Well, I don't know how many, maybe a lot, especially these really uber rich people who don't believe in God. It's like, okay, so you have all this stuff. Okay, now what? What's the point? What's the purpose? So chew on that one for a while.
It's probably exactly the same as yours, minus God and Jesus and eating wafers and drinking church wine. I don't know what you think atheists are, but if you just ask an atheist, I'm sure they'd be happy to explain.
My last one, point number 10. Let's see, I wrote it down. Number 10, everything in your world was created by intelligent beings, but not the earth and the universe. Okay, so, you wake up and nowadays you got your iPhone or your smartphone and something intelligent had to create that, right? It didn't just come out of nowhere. I love the story, and it's got a lot of different permutations, but it's the story of an atheist who walks into a clock shop and the watchmaker shows him this beautiful watch, and the atheist says, "Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful watch." He said, who made it? And the watchmaker's like, well, no one made it. It just showed up. It's like, come on, seriously. Things don't just pop up out of nowhere. Who made this? What expert person made this? I want to thank him or her.
Has this guy just spent hours on the internet looking for the most basic arguments, repurposed them, and then used them as reasons to believe in a god, despite things like the watchmaker analogy being shut down hundreds of times?
And again, the watchmaker has said, well, nobody. It just came out of nowhere. You'd think the watchmaker was a loon, right? When your iPhone is made or your smartphone, right? It comes from some factory. Someone designed it. You can go up all the way up the chain, right? To the design and the brainstorming, to think about how a thing comes together, because humans are intelligent beings. Well, some are. But you take it for granted. It's like, well, yeah, of course, someone designed it, made it, created it. I understand that. And yet when you look around in the world, you see the stars in the heavens, a lunar eclipse, you see plants grow, and you see all this wonderful stuff, right? How God paints the sky for us every day. And every day you wake up and there's some, everything is different. One day it's cloudy. One day it's sunny. One day it's hot. One day it's cold. And you ask the person, like, well, where did all this come from?
Is this you not understanding axial tilt now? I'm going to think that this is just a case of the education system letting someone down.
And for us, it's easy. It's like, well, God created all this. God puts everything in order. God makes it all happen. Dude, he's awesome.
He's awesome? Really? Something that makes it too hot or too cold in certain places to survive, that teases us with 2/3 of the planet being covered in undrinkable water, that has diseases that slowly kill us, bodies that just start breaking down as we age. That creature's awesome. And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Right? And what does an atheist say? I don't know, because I've never been in that position, but what does an atheist say when he or she looks out at the world, the created world that God created, not all the man-made stuff, but just the creation of God?
Well, nothing. I don't accept that it was created.
When you go up on a mountain or a hill and you look out and it just takes your breath away at the beauty of it, and we're supposed to believe it came from nothing?
No, you believe it came from nothing. I'm all in on that it came about naturally. There's a big difference.
It came from nowhere. There was no intelligent being that had anything to do with that. It just happened.
Did his brain just shut down temporarily as he contemplated that? Poor fella.
Come on. I mean, that's just like insulting to intelligence when you really get down to it.
It's insulting to the thousands of experts that spend their lives training and discovering how things come to be, and then some dingbat like you says, no, it was obviously an undemonstrated bearded fairy what done it.
You're trying to get us to believe that all this beauty, all this incredible stuff was not created by anything or anyone. It just happened. It was evolution. It just came from nothing.
Nope. But I would ask that you speak to a few scientists about the explanations for everything, rather than you thinking you have the answers when you've just taken the lazy boy way out.
It's ridiculous.
Yep, it is.
I'm not doing this recording to offend anybody. At the same time, it's a lot of this is forced down our throat. We're living in a world where God is pushed out, and the atheists are in charge in many places. And what have they brought to the world? Have they brought beauty? Most time they bring death and misery.
Oh, yeah. All those atheists killing in the name of atheism. Sure. And all the stuff that you look at and go, God did that. Well, it's still there. And I say, wow, isn't that cool? And I'm an atheist. All I see is that believers in religions fight over whose imaginary friend is better, a God saying that a patch of land belongs to a certain set of people, and people can't access healthcare and so just die because a religious belief hinders stuff. Are you okay, mate?
People living in poverty. If you go back to the Soviet Union, this is why I think it's hilarious when there's people, especially the young people today, is like, oh, let's bring in socialism and communism. There isn't a place where that has been tried that it hasn't failed miserably, where the people aren't miserable. In fact, recently, I think in Cuba, there was a total power outage for the whole island. But do you think the people who are in charge, do they experience that? Are they short on food? Are they living in huts somewhere? Are they trying to eke out a living? Of course not. That's why I just don't understand it. What good does atheism bring to the world?
Hang on. Catholicism is the largest denomination of Christianity in Cuba, with only roughly 1/4 of the population being non-religious. About the same as the USA nuns. Now I know you don't care about true things. I'm not sure that there was anything here to be convincing enough to start believing in a god with a lot of look at the trees and look how bad atheism has been for all these non-atheistic countries. It just sounds like Mark is reaching for reasons to say not believing in a god is silly. Well, I think the reverse is true. But maybe you think these 10 reasons are good enough to not be atheist. Let me know in the section below. I'm going to skeptic this as no good reason to start believing in a god. A big thank you to this month's top level ticks on Patreon. Dark Ether Piao, Tamo, The Barely Bearable Atheist, George, Godless Granny, Addy Rockart, The Enixes, Jakari, Elizabeth, Whiskey Tech Fred and Rick, as well as all the $3 base ticks. You can become a supporter on Patreon too at patreon.com/TheSkepTick. The link is in the description, along with links to all my other socials. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. From me, the Skeptic, stay safe, keep thinking logically, and ask questions. Skepticism is the first step towards truth. See you next Saturday.